Welcome to Speak Forward English, where we help you master the language with confidence.
Hey, Jerry. How are you doing today?
Sophia, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. So, I thought today we could dive into something that confuses a lot of English learners.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
The difference between shall and will. I know it sounds simple, but trust me, there's more to it than people think.
You're absolutely right. I remember when I was teaching last week, one of my students asked me about this, and I realized it's actually pretty tricky to explain.
Exactly. So, let's start with the basics. In modern American English, we mostly use will for almost everything related to the future.
Right. Um, I will go to the store tomorrow, or she will call you later.
Perfect examples. Now, shall is much less common in American English these days. It sounds quite formal or even old-fashioned to most Americans.
Yeah, when I hear shall, I almost think of like Shakespeare or something. But it's still used in British English more frequently, isn't it?
Absolutely. The British use shall much more than we do. But even in American English, there are specific situations where we still use it.
Okay, so when would we use shall in American English?
Great question. So the most common use is in formal questions when we're making suggestions or offers, like, shall we go to the movies tonight?
Ah, yes. Or shall I open the window? It sounds polite and a bit fancy, doesn't it?
It does. It has this elegant quality to it. Another place we use shall is in legal documents and official rules.
Oh, interesting. Can you give an example?
Sure, like the tenant shall pay rent on the first day of each month, or no person shall enter without authorization.
I see. So it's giving a strong sense of obligation or requirement in those contexts.
Exactly. It's almost like a command disguised as future tense. In legal language, shall means must, essentially.
That makes sense. So if I'm understanding correctly, will is just stating what's going to happen, while shall in legal context is demanding what must happen.
You've got it. Let me give you a contrast. If I say, I will attend the meeting, I'm just telling you my plan. But if a contract says, the employee shall attend all mandatory meetings, that's not optional.
Right, that's an order, not a prediction.
Precisely. Now let's talk about will in more detail since it's so much more common in American English.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So will is our go-to word for talking about the future. We use it for predictions, decisions made at the moment of speaking, promises, and offers.
Let's break those down with examples. So for predictions, I might say, it will rain tomorrow, right?
Perfect. And for spontaneous decisions, imagine someone asks, who wants the last cookie? And you say, I will take it.
I like that example. And for promises, I will always be there for you, or I will finish this project on time.
Beautiful examples. And for offers, we might say, I will help you with your homework, or I will drive you to the airport.
This is really helpful. But what about shall in questions? You mentioned that earlier. Can we explore that more?
Definitely. So when we use shall in questions with I or we, it's usually to make polite suggestions or ask for someone's opinion about what to do.
So like, shall we dance?
Yes, classic example. Or shall I make some coffee? Or what shall we do this weekend?
I notice those all sound quite polite and considerate. If I used will instead, how would that change things?
Good observation. If you say, will we dance? It sounds like you're asking about a future fact, like you're genuinely unsure if dancing will happen. It's not really making a suggestion.
Oh, interesting. So shall we dance is an invitation, but will we dance is just asking for information.
Exactly. The nuance is subtle but important. Shall in these questions is really saying, would you like to, or is it a good idea if we?
I'm starting to see why students find this confusing. There's a lot of subtlety here.
There really is. And here's another interesting point. In negative forms, we almost never use shall not in American English anymore.
What would we say instead?
We'd say won't or will not, like I won't be late instead of I shall not be late. which sounds very archaic.
Yeah, I shall not be late sounds like something from a Victorian novel.
Right? Though shan't is the contraction of shall not, and you might hear it in British English, but in American English, it's basically extinct.
I don't think I've ever heard an American use shan't in casual conversation. So let's talk about some more practical examples that our listeners might use in daily life.
Great idea. So imagine you're making plans with a friend. You'd probably say, I will meet you at 6, not I shall meet you at 6.
Right, that would sound way too formal for a casual meetup.
But you might say, shall we meet at 6 to suggest the time.
Okay, so shall for the suggestion, will for the confirmation.
Exactly. Here's another scenario. You're at a restaurant and the server might ask, what will you have today? Not what shall you have?
But if you're trying to decide between friends, you might say, what shall we order? Is that right?
Perfect. You're getting the hang of this.
I'm trying. So, what about making promises? Do we ever use shall for promises?
In American English, almost never. We use will for promises. I will love you forever. I will keep your secret. I will pay you back next week.
But in some formal contexts, like weddings, you might hear shall. Like in traditional wedding vows, some people still say I shall instead of I will.
True, though even that's becoming less common. Most modern American weddings use will in the vows now.
Times are changing. What about in questions with other pronouns, like he, she, or they?
Good question. In American English, we almost never use shall with third-person pronouns in questions. We'd say, will he come to the party, not shall he come to the party.
That second one sounds really strange to American ears, doesn't it?
Very strange. It might work in British English in certain contexts, but not here.
Let's think about the workplace. If you're in a business meeting and you want to suggest something, what would you say?
You might say, shall we review the quarterly reports now? That sounds professional and polite.
But if you're stating what's going to happen, you'd say, we will review the quarterly reports in today's meeting.
Exactly. See how shall makes it sound like you're seeking agreement or consensus, while will is more definitive?
Yes, that's a really practical distinction. I bet a lot of learners would find that helpful in business settings.
Definitely. Now let me give you a tricky one. What about expressing determination or strong intention?
Interesting. How would we use these words for that?
Well, traditionally in British English, you could emphasize determination by switching the normal pattern. So instead of I will, you'd say I shall with emphasis.
Like, I shall overcome.
Yes, or we shall succeed. But again, this is pretty rare in American English. We'd more likely say I will succeed with emphasis on the will.
Or we might use different words entirely, like I'm determined to succeed, or I'm going to succeed no matter what.
Great point. Americans have lots of ways to express determination without relying on shall at all.
This is making me think about questions of obligation. Like if someone asks, should I call him versus shall I call him, what's the difference?
Ooh, great comparison. Should I call him is asking whether it's the right thing to do, whether it's advisable.
And shall I call him is asking if the other person would like you to make the call, right?
Exactly. Shall I is offering to do something, while should I is asking for advice about whether to do it.
So if we're at a party and it's getting late, I might ask you, shall I call a cab for us? Meaning, would you like me to arrange transportation?
Perfect. And if you asked, should I call a cab, you'd be asking whether I think it's time to leave or whether it's a good idea.
The English language is so precise when you really dig into it.
It really is. And that's why these little words matter so much. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about one more thing.
What's that?
The use of shall in formal announcements or rules, especially in official contexts.
Oh, yes. Like in the Constitution or laws, right?
Exactly. The U.S. Constitution uses shall throughout, like Congress shall have the power to, or the President shall be Commander-in-Chief.
So in that context, shall really means is required to or has the authority to, doesn't it?
Precisely. It's creating binding obligations or granting official powers. You'd never use will in those contexts because it wouldn't have the same legal force.
Imagine if the Constitution said, Congress will have the power. That sounds like a prediction, not a rule.
Right, it would completely change the meaning. Shall in legal language is non-negotiable and absolute.
So, to summarize for our listeners, in everyday American English, stick with will for most future tense situations.
Absolutely. Use will for predictions, promises, spontaneous decisions, and general future talk.
And save shall for polite questions like, shall we or shall I, when making suggestions or offers.
Right. And remember that shall appears in legal documents, formal rules, and official regulations to express obligation.
But don't go around saying, I shall in casual conversation unless you want to sound like you're from the 19th century.
Exactly. Though if you're going for a formal or elegant tone, shall can add that touch of sophistication in the right context.
This has been such a helpful discussion. I think our listeners will really benefit from understanding these nuances.
I hope so. And remember, folks, if you enjoyed this conversation and want to improve your English listening skills, please subscribe for daily English listening practice.
Yes, please do subscribe. We cover topics like this regularly, and it's a great way to train your ear for natural American English.
We'd love to have you join our community of learners. Hit that subscribe button.
Absolutely. And remember, learning English is a journey, not a destination.
Well said. Thanks so much for this conversation, Jerry. It was really fun breaking down shall and will together.
Thank you, Sophia. It's always a pleasure discussing English grammar with you. Until next time, everyone.
Take care and happy learning.